So this one's just organic, raw,
Yes.
whatever. So we just kind of had I'm having magical moments because, as you know, I'm a little bit empty nested right now. And I'm saying a little bit because I'm in denial. So my daughter's at college and my son is living with his dad. So that's a lot of it empty nested.
Sudden that you weren't maybe totally expecting, at least not your son. But.
Right. I'm having like just magical, yummy moments with Suzanne's kids that are just so just pure and honest and innocent, and they just talk. And so we've kind of been listening and just thinking about value systems. That's kind of coming up, and that her daughter has such a beautiful value system, but that she has friends that don't necessarily have that yet, which makes sense because you're young.
You're young.
And
But
then
I said, it's interesting because you would think you wouldn't be hanging around people who don't have your same value system, but I don't think that's always the case.
Well, and I think what's fascinating with today's world and the segment that we did earlier in regards, I think we did last week in regards to affairs, is that we have a different world. And so people that we think have the same value system also are moving into some different behaviors that might even be against their own value systems. And so it's hard. So people change. One of the things I used to see a lot working with adolescents, there's a significant change that occurs junior, senior year. And I would watch it with all the adolescents I would work with, and I could just like, pin it on the calendar. They'd come in like first week of senior year and they'd say, I've been best friends with Sophia for 5 years and now
she's completely different.
She's so different. She's drinking, she's doing this, and I don't really like her anymore. And it's like, and it's such a lonely time, and they're thinking they're gonna all graduate together and be besties forever, but there's this lonely time, junior, senior year, where they kind of split and they have different values, and it's really fascinating.
It is fascinating because when I went through my divorce, a lot of my friends were the wives of my husband's friends. So, when we went through the divorce, a lot of those people weren't in my life anymore. And not necessarily to say that was a bad thing. I felt like I changed a lot after my divorce, and at least definitely so for the last 5 years. But I feel like it's not, we think it's such a bad thing if you lose a friend or if you don't have someone in your life anymore. And I really believe in that saying, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime in all of your relationships.
Yeah, we should read that. I find that somewhere on your phone or something. If you've never heard that poem, it's my favorite poem. Actually, I'll just talk about it because I think it's so powerful. Basically, the concept is that many of us really believe like in forever, and we believe that our marriage should last forever, our friendship should last forever, and that when we say goodbye to things, it's so painful and it's so horrible. And I stumbled on that poem probably around the time of my divorce, or maybe a little earlier, and it was actually in my 20s, because I used to get in so much pain when I'd go through a breakup, and I would be so, and it's hard for you guys to believe, I'm a little dramatic. A little. Maybe I put on candles.
Me too.
And candles and soft music, right? Sinead O'Connor, maybe in the dark room, crying in the rocking chair. Maybe I did that in my 20s. Maybe I didn't. But I would be very dramatic about it, and it would feel so devastating. And so I found this poem, and it made so much sense to me. Reason, season, a lifetime. It says, listen, this is a journey, and you're going to be with somebody for a reason, and it's going to be a really good reason. Maybe they need to teach you something. Maybe you're really broken at a point and you really need help with something, and they're going to be there. They're going to provide what you need. They're going to help the problem. And then when it's fixed, they're going to go. And it might be in a moment's notice. And it actually says they might die. They might walk away. They may never return your calls again. But at some moment, they'll be gone. It's okay. The reason that they came is now over, and it's time for them to move on. There'll be some people that come into your life for a season. They bring unbelievable happiness and joy. Believe it. It is real. Enjoy it. But it's only for a season. And they may act up, force you to take a stand, or pass away, but they will leave your life just as quickly as they came in, and it was just for a season. And then there are lifetime people that you are to use all these reason and season lessons to maintain those relationships over a lifetime. And it was so beautiful for me to say, hey, because then what I began to do with relationships, which I think is going to be our topic for this, we're kind of going at this all over backwards. But what helped me understand is that relationships are here to teach us, right? And they're not permanent, and there's a reason and a season. And so when something could end, I wouldn't have to be devastated. I could begin to look back and go, what was that supposed to teach me? why did I choose that? What was that supposed to teach me? What was I supposed to get from that? And so now that's what I look at in life. I go, wow, they brought me joy. They showed up at just the perfect time. They taught me this. And so I think it's really healing way of looking at relationships.
It 100% is.
Right? And letting go of them. I recently had a situation where, I don't want to share too much personally, but I had said goodbye to, someone in my life, and I recently had a dream about it. It was this really intense dream around kind of like, I love you forever, you'll love me forever, but we can't be together as friends. It was a friendship. Don't worry, Brian. Seeing this guy at work. No, I'm just kidding. And it was just a friendship, but at the end of it, and that dream, and I was like, wow, and that was a really beautiful thing, because this person, we don't belong in each other's lives, but it was a beautiful friendship for a time until it wasn't, and to just have that be a peaceful thing instead of a painful, horrible, oh my gosh, it's like, no, it served its reason, it served its season, and it's just not healthy anymore.
How do you know when it's not healthy? I mean, I think, there's... Because I feel like with a lot of, not just relationships, but also friendships, you want to understand the other person is not just like you, and just because they're not just like you doesn't mean it's not healthy. But how do you know when that relationship is not good for you anymore?
She has the best questions. So what I love about that, so yes, one thing is they will bring a ton of pain. Okay. And hey, pain's not a bad thing, because it's like, I have a friend who says, grow or blow, like you got to do this. So I love that, pain pushes us to grow. But the thing about it for me is they will bring a tremendous amount of pain, and it will be unrelenting. And it will stretch me to be honest, right? So it's the opposite of codependency. So they're causing pain, and you're like, okay, what's going on for me? Let me look at my triggers. Let me figure it out. And then you'll go back and you'll say, hey, here's what's going on for me. I'm getting really triggered when you do this. And so when it's time for me to end the relationship is when I've worked on myself, figured out my triggers, gone inside and figured out what my 50% is, and they have done nothing to respond. They're like, oh, sorry you feel that way. Like, they're not empathic. They don't care that they're wounding me. They don't care about what's going on and what I'm doing to work through it. And they're not willing to meet me halfway. Because to me, codependency is I give, you take. I row, you don't row. And so when I show up and I say, okay, this is what's going on for me, and this is what I'm walking through, and this is, I get triggered when, and here's my piece. Do you want to look at your piece? And they go, no, I don't want to look at my piece. And they're blaming or shaming, and the pain continues. That is when I make a stand at some point and say, you know what? This is what I call a toxic relationship. Because I am changing what I need to change. I'm looking at my 50%. I'm listening to what I need to work on from you. I'm taking it under advisement. I'm going and seeing my therapist and working on it. And you're not doing any of that. You're shaming and blaming and saying it's, and scapegoating me and saying it's all me. I gotta have some kind of 50-50, 30, don't make me do math right now. 30, 80, 70, 20.
Don't make me do math. Well, let me ask you this, because in a lot of my friendship relationships, I don't know if it's because of my busy schedule or just because of my personality, but I'm a little more of they have to contact me. I mean, sure. I've always been like that. And not just, not because I don't love them and want to be around them and talk to them, but really I found that my girlfriends that stick with me either are okay with that, or they are the ones that are like my friend Tina. She's the best. She calls and calls and calls and calls until I finally call her back, or text. And she doesn't get mad at me because she understands that's how I am, and she's okay with it. She doesn't shame me or blame me or say anything is wrong with that. She just understands that I've got a lot on my plate, and if I don't get back to you right away, it doesn't mean I don't care about you. So I guess my question is it okay? I guess if the other person is okay with that, correct?
Well, I think it's all about this fine line of acceptance, right? So what I'm hearing you say, Suzanne, is that you are a certain way. And no matter how much you love somebody, no matter how much you care, you really don't deviate much from that. You can tweak it a little bit, but at the end of the day, you are who you are. You work a lot, you're overwhelmed, you have kids, you have a busy life, and if somebody's going to fit in your world, they're going to kind of have to be able to force their way in and kind of, do some work on showing up for you. And you do show up, and I know you well, and I know you do show up face to face, you're 100%, you're all in, but it's hard to catch you. Right. And so what I'm hearing you say is that, what do you do with that if somebody has a problem with that? And so my opinion is, most of us are who we are, and I think we need to be very honest with that. But my last example, so if I said to you, gosh, it really hurts my feelings, and you said to me, Shannon, I love you dearly. The fact that I'm hurting your feelings breaks my heart in two, because I would never hurt you. I'm just being honest with you. I've got a little bit of ADD. I've got a lot of overwhelm. I've got 2 kids that are my priority. I've got a job that has to be a priority, and there literally isn't enough time for you. However, if you keep calling, I promise I will call you back. If you call
exactly
me,
what I say to people.
Right?
If I don't email you right back, try like 2 or 3 more times.
Right. Or you might say, if you are in an emergency and you're on the side of the road and you text me, 911 Suzanne, I'm dying, I will call you back. Right. So, I think it matters if you can share that and let people know, I am not meaning to wound you. Here's what I can offer. If you tell me 911, I will be there. If and that kind of thing, we kind of negotiate. Then I think, then it's up to them, right? We're back to codependency. Do I want to accept you for who you are, or do I want to keep trying to change you and keep yelling at you and keep telling you how disappointed I am? And I thought you would, after I told you, you would call me back. So I think that we do have a level of acceptance. We have to accept people for where they're at.
And be honest with who you are to them as well.
Right. And some people, I'm going to be honest with you, Suzanne, some people are going to say, it is so unbelievably painful for me. My core of who I am is that I respond to everyone immediately. It's so unbelievably painful to me that you don't respond, that I literally have to walk away from this because I can't accept you. And you know what?
That's
I
fine.
get it. I get it. It's okay. Right. So I think it's about compatibility and really understanding that. I get that about you too. That's why we're easy. It's like, all right, well, she must have been falling asleep, or she didn't get the message, or I'll just send in another one, and half of it I'm like, it's not that important. I don't need the answer. But I get it. I get that it's not personal. And again, it's so funny how all of this is intertwined, because for the person that's having that issue, they really need to look at their triggers. Maybe they have a lot of abandonment stuff. And if they can work on healing some of that, that's the neatest thing about friendships. My friendships really call me to task on healing, because if somebody's making me feel abandoned, they're not making me feel that I already had that to begin with. So now I have to work on my abandonment, and I'll work on it. But I might still come to a point. I tell you, I have a friend that is kind of a judger, and it's like, it's just too hard for me. That is the one thing. So I'll call myself out. There's one type of person that I really struggle with, and that is somebody who is very judgmental and shaming. And I've done a million years of work on myself, but I am so sensitive and so empathic that when somebody does the snarky looks and disappointed looks, I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing with your life? And they're so judgmental. It's really hard for me to look past. And so I do separate myself. Too. And that's so I think everybody has a thing. And I think it's okay. And I still love those people, but it's just for me, I have to take care of myself, and I have to step back. That's again, back to the codependency. It's what do I need to do to take care of myself? I need to step back a little bit because it's too painful. And I know that person loves me and I love them, but I just kind of do different environments so that I don't feel that dead-on judgment, and I just kind of protect myself a little bit. So that's part of it.
I've done that too, where you kind of separate yourself a little bit.
Just
you don't
a little
have
bit.
to have them completely out of your life. You just, you're not around them as much as you used to be, or whatever it is. I feel like we think, we have to cut not toxic people, but cut people out of their lives if they don't fit into us exactly. And I don't really believe that. I think you can sort of step away a little bit. Negotiate it.
When you bring up one of my favorite things that people are always surprised when I work with them on it, and I love it, I think it's such a great rule of thumb, especially with women, is I say to people, figure out who people are. So for example, I've got a friend that we wiggle together. We love to dance together. Dancing is our thing. Whenever I think of dancing, I think of her. We call each other for dancing, and we're besties, and we've been close for years, and we have all these other connections. But if I'm going dancing, I'm calling her. And there's other friends where I'm like, I am not even going to let them know I'm dancing, because they're going to be like, are you kidding me? I have a glass of wine. It's 9 o'clock. I'm on my couch, and there's no way in hell I'm going to join you. And so know who your friends are. And then I have that
your
friend
compatibility,
that
you compartmentalize.
I've got my movie friend, I've got my dancing friend, I've got my lunch friend that I do go to great lunches, and we keep in touch with each other. But never going to invite them dancing, or they're never going to invite me to dinner, you know, or they're not going to go to that loud dinner party. So and I remember talking to people about this, and they're like, wow, what a great concept. So now I don't have to be mad at this friend that she won't go dancing with me. Because we kind of do that. It's like, I love being with you, do everything with me, but you hate doing these things. Why am I going to make you find the other person?
It's so funny that you say that, because I went to a concert last night with one of my girlfriends, Jenna, and, you know, I just love, Jenna's fun. Like, no matter what happens, we always have fun together. And we had, at the last minute, gotten a couple of extra tickets. And, you know, it's her birthday, so I was letting her decide who, you know, if she wanted to invite anyone else. And she goes, well, you know, I really don't want anyone to kill our vibe. And I just thought that was so funny, because, you know, we have other friends that we love, and I could have, you know, we could have easily invited, but like, we just like had our vibe going, and we just wanted to be, you know, it just does. So I thought that was a really interesting, and that's a good way to put it, because, you know, everyone has a different vibe.
You do. You have different energy that transpires. And so instead of trying to fit everybody into the same box, enjoy all those different pieces, and that's your village. And isn't that so great that on this day you can go to lunch with this great person and just feel so fulfilled, and then the next night you can go dancing with this person, and then the other person, you know. I
will tell you though, in the age of social media, it's very hard, especially if you have sensitive friends
feel left
feel left out. You know, because I really feel like you have friends maybe sometimes that are like, oh, well, why didn't they invite me?
Oh God, that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
And that's so hard, because I have to say, and probably just because I'm an empath and you are too, I really don't want to hurt people by like posting that stuff. So you know, I guess I would just say to people, do think about that. Like, do think about the fact when you're getting ready to post that we're having so much fun doing this, that there's going to be 5 other people like, wow, I didn't even know you were doing that. You know, I think sometimes maybe letting people know, I know that feels a little uncomfortable, but letting people know like, hey, it's Jenna's birthday. Got these tickets. I'm going to take her. She's so excited. I hope, you know, we only have 2 tickets or whatever, and you just ruined that. They had 4, they didn't call you. It's a whole nother.
We did someone else ended up taking the ticket, so it wasn't like we had them for a long time, and so whatever.
But, you know, like letting
if any of
people
my friends are watching, they're like, why didn't they invite me? I'm like, oh,
abort! This is a bad segment. No, but you know, I think it is good. I would love that if somebody would call me and say, listen, I'm doing, you know, well, my JoJo is probably laughing right now because Joanna's a dear friend of mine, and she recently did a girls' weekend, and she had planned it, and then she said something at lunch like, oh, hey, if you want to go, like, we're going this date and this. I'm like, let me get this straight. You've already got tickets in a hotel, and you're telling me now? And she's like,
last minute.
Well, it's not like, and you know, we laughed about it, but it felt so good that she told me about it, and I could say, that kind of stings. And even though I can't, you know, really fly right now, or I don't really want to, you know, it kind of stings. And she's like, oh, but I love you. I always want, you know, and so we worked it out. So I think it is good, because when I saw her on that trip, I was just nothing but happy for her. And I was looking at the pictures. Had I not known, JoJo, don't you go and don't tell me. Had I not known, it would have been like, wow, you know, it does, it stings. So not that you have to check in with everybody, but you're right. I think it is kind of important if you have a group of 5 that you do everything together, and then all of a sudden you didn't call the 5th, you may just want to say to them, you know, hey, just so you know, we know you're not really flying right now, and you got some stuff going on. We're not trying to exclude you. We didn't want to cram it in your face, but you know, here's what we're doing, and that kind of thing.
Because you're going to see it all over Facebook.
And Instagram. And Snapchat. And all of it.
Like, you know, Snapchat.
Don't I look so cool right now?
That's right.
I have teenagers.
Good job, Shannon. All right, guys. Well, I love that discussion.
Yeah. So toxic relationships, healthy relationships, and everything in between.
Yes. All right. And don't forget, if you have any issues you're struggling with or show topics, don't forget to comment, like our page, and please share these videos too. If you know anyone who's dealing with these issues, share these videos with them.
If you know any people, just share them, because everybody's dealing with these issues.
I know. That's true. That's true. All right. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you all. And we'll see you back here soon.
Bye.